Thank you, Laurie. I wish to express my appreciation and thanks to EBRI for selecting me as the 2018 Lillywhite Award recipient. Today, I take this opportunity to talk with you about some of my ideas and offer some observations about retirement in the United States. I've been writing and researching about retirement and financial security for more than 50 years, with much of that work connected to the Society of Actuaries, where I volunteered extensively for many years. More than 20 years ago, I started two projects, Society of Actuaries, that continue to this day. First, I worked to build bridges with other organizations connected with research and education in retirement, and to see if we could establish joint projects that met our common interest. EBRI has been one of the organizations that I worked with, helping the Society of Actuaries establish bridges, and we're happy to have had a good and long relationship. The second project was the beginning of the work on post-retirement risks, and the Society of Actuaries now has a very established research program on post-retirement risks with many different projects. I'm very proud of that program and feel that it's added insights to the entire retirement community. At this point, I want to shift to thinking about the retirement system today and in the future, and policy. Retirement policy sets the stage for the retirement system. The system and the participants have changed drastically, but there hasn't been a total systematic review of policy for many years, even though some of the things that have happened are a major decline in defined benefit, with defined benefit nearly phased out in the United States and in some other countries as well, together with a big growth in defined contribution plans, but often with a lower benefit level. Employer-sponsored retiree health benefits have nearly disappeared, and for many years they were the other half of the picture. But think about this in the context of low financial literacy in the United States, and many people who simply don't have the capability to deal effectively with their defined contribution plans and figure out how much to save. Technology has made self-service in many benefit administration areas feasible, but that doesn't help people with poor financial literacy and poor computer skills. Lifespans are increasing dramatically, but we've failed to adjust retirement ages. And we've also had demographic and other life changes. But today we're concerned because college costs have risen so much, and that's been a barrier to people saving for retirement because they're still paying off their student loans as they get into midlife. We see also big disparities in earnings. All of this leads to a situation where the population has more responsibility for their own financial security, but many people aren't really well equipped to deal with it. Some are struggling with difficult jobs, rising expenses and flat income, trying to help other family members, debt that seems overwhelming. So we need a good and comprehensive reevaluation of policy. Some of the concerns that I feel should be addressed are the amount of risk that the individual must bear. I feel for many it's too much today. How to provide for people without access to a current employer-sponsored retirement program. While people have access to individual retirement accounts, many don't use them. The link between disability and retirement security in a defined contribution world. Retirement ages that are not sustainable in an aging society. We need to look for new ways of thinking of retirement and integrate work options into retirement. We also need to think about, what about Social Security? Do we have the right structure going forward? Are our minimum benefits adequate? For many, many Americans, Social Security is their retirement income. We also have issues with health insurance and disadvantaged groups. It's time we take a new look at policy, and I want to encourage all of you to do that and to help the retirement system by thinking about what's good, not just for me and my organization, but for Americans as a whole. I want to close my comments by summarizing some of the issues that have been important to me in my over 50 years as an actuary. It seems that I've continued to work on some of the same themes year after year. First is demographic and social change. I got interested in this topic in the early 1970s, thinking about the future of the financial services industry. And I learned to focus on the changing environment. In every project that I've done, I try to think about, well, what's the environment? And are the solutions that work today going to work going into the future? I'd like to encourage all of us to do the same. Second, a focus on the consumer and the individual. Many of the professionals working in benefits and financial services are employed by the financial services companies, the plan sponsors, or their consultants or service providers to these people. But the people who are served by these plans are the participants in the benefit plans and the customers of the company. Unfortunately, sometimes the people offering the financial arrangements and the consumers do not have the same interests. We need to be thinking about the question of how do we meet the needs of consumers. My work in this focus started long ago. The first paper I wrote in 1974 was titled Consumerism and the Compensation of the Life Insurance Agent. It also showed that I was willing to speak out on controversial topics. The Society of Actuaries work in the Committee on Post-Retirement Needs and Risks is primarily focused on the individual. The next theme is the aging society and creating better work options for older Americans. I've seen huge demographic changes, including longer lives and longer periods of retirement. I've been focusing on phased retirement for over 25 years, but while I find that many people are really interested in this topic, that few organizations are supporting it very well. I have a recent paper, Reboot, Rewire, or Retire, that tells my story in that regard, and much more detail about these remarks is to be found in an eBri published blog. Two more themes that I'd like to mention are the family and retirement security. The Society of Actuaries research that I've been working on demonstrates that the family is an important part of retirement security. And when people get to older ages and need help, the family, in fact, often steps up, particularly with hands-on help rather than financial help. We don't think adequately about where the family fits in and how it fits in. This also leaves us with a question of what are we going to do about people without family? The last theme I want to mention is disability and retirement security. About 10 years ago, I realized that while defined benefit plans offered built-in disability protection most of the time, so that benefit accruals would continue when people were long-term disabled, this protection had just been lost in defined contribution plans. I've been on a campaign to get more people to pay attention to this issue. So I'd like to encourage all of you to also work to improve retirement security in the U.S. That's been my passion. So I challenge you to the following. Don't automatically accept what we believe. Look at facts to understand the reality. For example, eBri's analysis of the health and retirement study data provides many insights about spending into retirement. I encourage more use of this data to learn how people are doing. Possible areas for study include income patterns, asset development, spending, work in retirement, etc. And I think we can all learn from this and other work, but we need to pay attention to what people actually do, not just what we think they should. Revisit risk sharing and distribution in today's economy. More and more risk has been shifted to individuals and away from employee benefit plans. With a move away from defined benefit retiree health, employers have shifted longevity risk, inflation risk, and investment risk, health care risk, and disability risk to employees. And this risk will continue to grow as old plans phase out. It's time to reevaluate whether the current level of risk sharing works for all parties and seek innovative new ways to deal with risk. And lastly, respond better to the aging society. We are living longer, and periods of retirement have grown dramatically over the last 50 years. As the age distribution of the population is changing, longer periods of work are important to society as a whole, businesses and individuals. Institutional and policy support for longer work are lacking. It's time to facilitate better work options for older people and better policy support for many areas of support for older people. Some of the issues to be studied include retirement ages, phased retirement, Medicare secondary rules, contractor rules, employee benefit rules, and more. As we think about all this, remember, they should be tied together with a general focus on retirement policy. Thank you for allowing me to share these ideas with you, and above all, thank you to Ebri for the Lillywhite Award, and thank you to all of you who have read my work, followed the Society of Actuaries research, and are working to improve the retirement system. This is a great honor, and I feel very humbled by it. Thank you.